Chapter 30 President, 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 President. Since Washington was the first president, everything he first lady Martha Washington, it became the start of a tradition for a president. For example, Washington chose to be called Mr. President instead of Your Highness, Your Excellency, or Your High Mightiness. Someone seriously suggested the first president. In early 1789, the state that had ratified the Constitution decided that an electoral college would meet and elect a president. Electoral college, a group that represents the people's vote in electing a president. George Washington was convinced to come out of retirement, and he received all the electoral vote. Washington is the only president to have ever won all of the electoral vote. According to the rule of the Constitution, the person with the second highest number of votes was vice president. So John Adams became the first vice president. They were inaugurated on April 30, 1789 in New York City, then the nation's temporary capital. Each state legislature appointed a certain number of electors based on each number of congressmen to represent their state and elect a president. The electoral college system has changed a lot since then, but is still in use today. The cabinet. Congress creates the Department of the Executive Branch, the State Department to deal with other countries, the War Department to deal with the defense issue, the Treasury to deal with the economy, the Justice Department to deal with the administration of justice, and the Postal Service. Washington chose these people to head this department. Henry Locke, a general from the Revolutionary War, Secretary of War. Thomas Jefferson, Secretary of State. Alexander Hamilton, Secretary of the Treasury. Edmund Randolph, Attorney General. Samuel Osgood, Postmaster General. As a group, these heads of department were the cabinet. The cabinet, except the postmaster, the cabinet began to advise the president as they do today. The Judiciary Act of 1789. Article 3 of the Constitution had a few specifics about a federal court system, established the judiciary branch. So Congress passed the Federal Judiciary Act of 1789. This established the federal court consisting of 13 district court and 3 circuit court of appeal. The states still maintain their own court, but a federal court could overturn their decision. The Supreme Court, the final federal court of appeals, would consist of 6 justices that were nominated by the president. President Washington nominated John Jay as the first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Alexander Hamilton and the national economy. The new nation faced a huge war debt, with debt to foreign nations, individual citizens, and soldiers who had been paid with bonds rather than cash. Alexander Hamilton proposed the three-part solution in 1790. The U.S. would pay off all debt, including debt owed by states. Revenue would be generated by raising tariff, which should also encourage people to buy American-made goods. A national bank would be established, owned jointly by the government and the private investors. For the government to store money and make loans, for the government to store money and make loans. A national mint would print paper money. Hamilton ran into a position. The South had paid their few debts, so they saw Congress's decision as rewarding the North's failure to pay. The South opposed the tariff, which don't benefit an economy that doesn't rely on manufactured goods. People lent money to the government in exchange for bond, often sold their bonds for cheap to speculators, who would now get a profit. Speculators, people who buy items at a low price with the hope that their value will later increase and they can be sold at a profit. Some people argue that Congress didn't have the right to found a bank. Hamilton supported a loose construction view of the Constitution, not noting that the elastic clause of Article 1 gives Congress the authority to do what's necessary and proper to carry out its powers. Thomas Jefferson and James Madison favored the strict constitution view of the Constitution, arguing that the necessary and proper clause put stronger limit on what was truly necessary. While Hamilton seemed to favor businessmen, Jefferson and Madison supported small farmers, while Hamilton advocated having a strong central government. Jefferson and Madison favored local and state government. The disagreement between Hamiltonians and Jeffersonians over the scope and extent of federal power laid the foundation for the first political parties in the U.S. Partly they assuring Southern congressmen that the location of the nation's capital would move. Hamilton was able to convince them to accept his plan. Congress assumed take the state debts, enacted law tariff, established the Bank of the United States in 1791. The bank had a 20-year charter that would have to be renewed, and states had the right to start their own banks. Washington had tried to stay neutral, but he agreed with Hamilton. Washington, D.C. New York City was a large and bustling metropolis, but some worried that keeping the capital there favored northern interest. A piece of land on the Potomac River between Maryland and Virginia, but part of neither state, was chosen as the site of a new capital. In 1790, the capital moved temporarily to Philadelphia, and in 1800, Washington, the District of Columbia, became the new capital. Washington, D.C. 1801 border, now VA. The Whiskey Rebellion. The Alexander Hamilton also encouraged Congress to pass a tax on whiskey. In western Pennsylvania, farmers who grew the corn used to make a whiskey, so the tax as an attack. Many of them used whiskey as money. In the summer of 1795, farmers attacked tax collectors in the Whiskey Rebellion. The November, Washington personally led an army to stop the rebellion, and the farmers surrendered right away. Washington proved that the U.S. government was powerful and would use force if its people did not follow the law. The Whiskey Rebellion is the only time the U.S. history that a sitting president had personally commanded an army. The Treaty of Greenville. Native Americans in the Northwest Territory united to fight American expansion into their land with the support of the British after many initial success. But a final defeat, 12 tribes signed the 1795 Treaty of Greenville, ceding most of their land in the Northwest Territory to the U.S. City to build or formally surrender.